All right, good Shabbos. Do you know anyone who is a sun worshiper? Really, where they think, I see a couple of hands over there where there's nothing better in their lives than just soaking up the sun. Well, maybe they're not here because they're snowbirds and they haven't made their way back yet to Cleveland. Well, we Jews are moon people. Our entire Jewish lives, our calendar, our holidays, our months and days are calibrated, calculated, and articulated by the cycles of the moon. The waxing and the waning from the small crescent new moon growing fuller and brighter to the diminishing crescent at the end of the month. As Jews, our days begin in the dark, in darkness at night, and end at sunset, the most glorious colors that light the sky at dusk. Our holidays fall on full moons, when the night sky is the brightest, reminding us that even in the darkness there is light. And yet the moon, which is full of craters and bumps, not smooth and shiny, even when it lights the night sky, gives off no light of its own. The moon reflects the light of the sun. We know that the ancient Egyptians worshipped the sun and the sun god, known as Ra, and the Egyptian king Pharaoh was considered that sun god, like the name we hear Ramses in our Pesach story. And perhaps that's why the 9th plague was the plague of darkness, Choshech, when in the middle of the day God blotted out the sun to remind the Egyptians not to be sun worshippers, to blindly follow their Pharaoh, but to be moon people. According to the Torah, the 9th plague, God brought darkness so thick that you could touch it, where Egyptians couldn't see in front of them, couldn't see each other, and that darkness lasted for 3 entire days. For us here in Cleveland, hopefully on Monday, in the path of totality, the solar eclipse will last 3 minutes and 49 seconds of total darkness. Not 3 days. God brought darkness to every single Egyptian, as the Torah tells us, because as a people, they did not stand up to the injustice of the Egyptian leadership to our ancient ancestors, the Hebrew slaves, the Jewish people. They didn't speak up about the suffering that was happening right around them to our ancestors. They were blind to our people's plight. They didn't see the light, the humanity in the Jewish people. And so the plague of darkness cast them in darkness, unable to move or see one another, just as they were blind to our suffering. During our solar eclipse, perhaps you will be donning special eclipse glasses, filtering out those harmful rays, reminding us that even in darkness there is light. Since October 7th, we have been living in a darkness that we can touch, like that 9th plague, a darkness that we can feel, the filter through which we see the world and the news, holding on to so much loss and so much pain, and at times it is too much. Our Parsha this week, Shmini, opens with a story of death, in fact 2 deaths. Aaron, the high priest, Moses' brother, having completed 7 spiritual days of initiation and preparation in order to consecrate the Mishkan, the holy sanctuary of God, finds out as he emerges on Shmini, on the 8th day, that his 2 sons, Nadav and Avihu, were killed. Devastated, the Torah tells us that Aaron's response is silence. Vayidom Aharon. Aaron can't speak. Perhaps the loss was too much to bear. Perhaps he felt that no one would listen, or it's not his place to voice his feelings. And that perhaps is how some of us have felt since October 7th. It's difficult to speak of the atrocities that continue, of the loss, of the devastation. If you are in Israel, what is often said is, it is actually still October 7th. The date hasn't changed on the calendar. We share our grief with our Israeli brothers and sisters. We try our best to share their stories, And yet, perhaps we may be hesitant to share our hurt with the larger community and the world at large. We may not feel like we have the safety to be able to voice our pain. But how can we do that? How can we speak up? Tomorrow, I hope that you will join me in marking 6 months since October 7th with our community at Ratzim Bishvilam. I hope that you already picked up your shirt to join over 1,000 Jewish Clevelanders and allies and supporters from around the community to run for them, Ratzim Bishvilam, to walk for them, to stand for them, to bring them home now, the 134 hostages that still remain in Gaza after 26 weeks. And when you go, even if you didn't register, you can just go tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. at the Jewish Federation. Like many other walks or marathons, you will get a bib or a number. But this is a different type of bib that you will receive. I have the name Kfir Bibas, and I will be running for him. Kfir, if you don't know his story, is the youngest who was taken hostage as a baby with his mother and his brother. Kfir, the infant stolen from his home and his family, still in captivity, that youngest hostage, is just a baby. And I will be running for him and for all those who are lost. And tomorrow morning we will hear from an Israeli mother whose son was killed at the Nova Music Festival and share her story. So there will not be silence. So who will you be running for? Who will you be walking for? Who will you be standing for? It is not time to be silent. We know that there is hope and recovery for Israel and the Jewish people. So how can we not be silent? We can join together as a community. We can share their stories, and we can go to Israel. I hope that you've seen the publicity. We are trying to get a synagogue trip June 17th to June 26th, 7 days in Israel. We need 12 community members to go. We have 6 so far. We need 12 for the 12 tribes of Israel. So hopefully you are able to join with me. I just spoke with one of our congregants who returned home from 3 weeks in Israel. And he said if there's anything that members of our synagogue can do right now, it's to go to Israel, to hug our brothers and sisters and tell them they are not alone, that we love them, that we're there for them. To volunteer, he worked in the fields picking fruit. He visited injured soldiers in the hospitals. He played with little kids who were in displaced hotels, and so much more. And that's what we're going to do when we go to Israel, to memorialize, to honor, and to laugh and to dance together. What can we do? What can we do? What could eclipse a mission like this? What can we do at this time of darkness? The rabbis say that the Midrash, that when initially God created the world, the moon actually had its own light. It didn't just reflect light. And in fact, it was just as bright as the sun. But that in order for our world to be the way it is, our days and our calendar, that the moon had to diminish its own light. We've had to diminish our light and our joy these past 6 months. But the rabbis say that God promised to the moon that in the future, I will return your light to you. You will shine even brighter. We have shared such difficult stories, but there's also so much light in Israel. And whether you travel to Israel or you just read about Israel, we will see those glimmers of hope. Like the glimmer of hope that happened Thursday morning in Israel, when more than 50 young people, 50, 12, and 13-year-olds who have lost parents on October 7th or since, celebrated their bar and bat mitzvah together at the kotel, at the wall. And they were joined by Druze and Bedouin 12 and 13-year-olds afterwards for a party, a celebration in their grief and their despair. And they were gathered and joined by not only political leaders, by people to celebrate who they are and know that they have all those surrounding them and supporting them, these 12 and 13-year-olds, that lives are changed forever. They know that we care about them and we provide for them and that we will continue to provide for them. The rabbis say that today, on Shabbat HaChodesh, this is a day when light is created. This is the day when the first commandment in the Torah, the first mitzvah, to count our days, is given to us. And on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, which is on Tuesday, they say that there is a new light that is born, a slight glimmer of hope in this world, a new doorway that opens for transformation and for hope. This month of Nisan is our month for remembering and our month to embrace hope. As we gather at our Seders in just a week, 2.5 weeks, we will say, L'shana haba'ah b'Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem. May there be light. May there be hope. May there be healing. May we stand together, whether it's running for them tomorrow morning, whether it's joining together in Jerusalem in June with our mission, or whether it's sharing their story and doing our part. May we be inspired to continue to speak up, to share our voice, to do our part to bring light and hope for our world. And we say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom.